How's it going, guys? What here? And today we're going to be doing a speedrun review of Shido's Palace. Now, before we get to the rundown on this palace, the story, and then we get to the review of how I think about this palace, I just want to say one more thing. There was going to be another palace after the ending palace, or the endgame palace and whatnot. But sadly, due to the PS5 system, I cannot review that palace, sadly, which I think, in my opinion, is actually a really good palace. So I cannot do it. If I had like a God or some shit to actually, plug it up to the TV or the PS5 or whatnot, I would be able to review. But I can't. I'm doing this solely on Share Factory, so let's get that out of the way. Okay, now for the story. After faking our death, we decide to infiltrate Shido's palace. And in order for us to do so, we have to get 5 letters of introduction by 5 specific people that work under Shido. Now, all these people are linked to our characters like Yusuke, Makoto, Ryuji. Basically, everyone that's in the group, especially Haru and Futaba, because 2 of them asked Shido to kill Okumura, which is Haru's father, and Futaba's mother, Wakaba. So we got all these recommendations, or introductions as they're called, and doing this, the palace is the same, right? The puzzle, it's good in my opinion. It just gets a little bit repetitive after like the second and third time and whatnot. If you look at this picture right now, this is literally the entire puzzle. It's huge. And then there's more puzzles after that. So it gets a little bit repetitive. They should have just stopped at like 2, but no, they made it the third time. And these boss fights, in my opinion, they're not bad. And I can't say they're easy because I was literally maxing out a specific persona throughout the entirety of this palace. And it was, of course, very easy doing so. So it made boss fights very easy to just defeat. So that's kind of disappointing that I wish I didn't really do that. But at least it's not too much stress on me and whatnot. And the final boss fight, which is, well, final quote unquote, it's the 5th letter introductions boss fight, is one of the cleaners, which I think is the most interesting in my opinion. The others are not as interesting as this one. And it's because this person with the last introduction is part of the Yakuza clan. And surprisingly, Shido somehow got in touch with the underground gangs and whatnot. So we defeat him, and next thing you know, we come out of the boss fight and we go against Akechi himself. Now, Akechi reveals to us that his plan, it was to kill Shido after he became the prime minister of, Japan. And he reveals that Shido is the father of Akechi, and that he was basically ignored, neglected by Shido, which is why he wants to kill him and whatnot. So he goes to fight us and reveals that he has a second persona, which also reveals that he's the person that has done the mental shutdowns. But you guys already knew this from the Size Palace review. I already explained that he's the person that has been causing the mental shutdowns and whatnot. So he goes into a second form, and it was still easy, which is upsetting because of the persona that I was using. That was literally max level, which made it so much easier. But yeah, we defeat him, and Shido decides to pull reverse Uno card and summons a cognitive version of Akechi to kill Akechi as well as the Phantom Thieves. But Akechi, deciding to betray his father, shoots the cognitive version of himself and gets himself killed. Quote unquote. This is the weird part. If you don't max out Akechi's confidant in this game, he will die. But the thing is, if you, like, since you fill out his confidant, he doesn't die for some reason. It's weird, and that's why I wished that I was able to, like, what's it called? Reveal the final palace, which is a secret palace, but they won't allow me to. It's really weird that Akechi is still alive. So he, I don't even know if he even dies in this palace. It was never explained. He just gets shot off screen, but we don't know who gets shot, like if it was his cognitive version or him. So it makes this really confusing. So yeah, we find the treasure, and then we decide to send a calling card later on, and then we fight Shido himself. Shido has 4 forms, if I remember correctly. It was him being on top of his lion full of metal or gold people and whatnot. Then it was a pyramid, then himself, and then himself again, but in a stronger form. Now, I like his boss fight a lot. It's actually one of my favorites because it's very interesting and it keeps you on your toes. And it's not actually disappointing because of my persona being powerful. It's actually, still relatively difficult if you're not being too careful. But his first 2 boss fights, it's not too hard until you get to the 3rd and 4th one, which is when he starts inflicting fear or despair into your characters. And then finally, we get to his final form, in which he makes it so he only attacks you and not your other characters, like Makoto, Ryuji, and Yusuke. And I think this is actually a really cool version of his boss fight that they added in Royal, because they never really done that. They only done it once, but I can't really say it was a boss fight. It was just like a little mini fight that you had to do in order for you to progress into the story. And I defeat him, and instead of the change of heart happening, Shido tries to kill himself temporarily with a pill, so we would die in his palace. But it doesn't work. Ryuji actually runs all the way across the boat to get us a what's it called? I think it was a raft or like a little boat for us to escape to, and we managed to escape. But since we escaped with his treasure, Shido wasn't able to stop us from changing his heart, and he finally confesses to his sins and to all the crimes that he has committed at the final day of the election. And that's the end of the story. In general, this palace isn't bad. From the vanilla version, I still liked this palace. I thought it was really good in my opinion, and them expanding it by adding the rose seeds and whatnot, and changing it up a little bit, I still think that's really good. Usually, whenever they would change things up, for example, Kaneshiro, it was not good. It felt like they changed it up for no reason. It was already good enough as it was. But in Shido's case, it's actually still really good, especially with the changes that they added. And I'm kind of surprised that they even changed it to begin with, because this palace in general was still pretty good. Besides the whole puzzle, too, because the puzzle, as I said, is a little bit irritating after the 3rd time, so I wish they can change that a little bit, but no, they didn't. The puzzle was still the same thing. And the boss fight is good as well. Is it as good as Sai? Yeah, sure, I could say that. But it doesn't have that charm that Sai had. But in general, Shido's boss fight was still pretty damn good. And, the whole fighting him by yourself is pretty cool as well. And I do like that a whole lot. And yeah, we're actually at our final palace. And that's going to be for next time. I don't know when I'm going to be making this video, probably tomorrow or whatnot. I'll have to think about it. As I said, I couldn't record the final palace, which was the 3rd semester, or the hidden 3rd semester palace and whatnot, because of the share factory and whatnot. So sadly, I cannot do a review on that and rate it at all. But I am willing to say that this Hidden Palace, it's very good. I think it's really interesting, and it actually takes a spin on people who you change their hearts and whatnot. It's kind of like Futaba, where you're not changing an evil person's heart, you're actually changing a person who is actually doing good and whatnot. Futaba's case, she was just very depressed, somewhat even suicidal and whatnot. This character that I cannot say, if you want to know who it is, I recommend looking up a playthrough on it because I think it will actually shock you guys if you even play it for yourself or watch someone play the entirety of Persona 5 Royal. So yeah, that's the review about to say. I hope this video comes out good and whatnot since it's like the second to last palace and whatnot. And I think the last palace that we're going to be reviewing is going to be relatively shorter in telling the story since there's not too much of a story to tell and whatnot. So yeah, that's all I have to say. And I'll see you guys next time.